Welcome everyone to the MMA Vivisection for Bellator New York City. Sonnen versus Silva in one of those. I actually slightly can't believe that Sonnen and Silva are still headlining this card. I've been waiting all week for that. Oh, the fight's off. It's actually Bellator New York City, Fedor versus Mitrione. Every day I expect that to come around. It has not yet happened. I am joined today by Eddie Mercado and Victor Rodriguez, all three of us from BloodyElbow.com. We are going to break down way too much of this card, frankly. We're going to start down at the Ryan Couture fight, the fifth fight on the card. The four fights below it are not worth anybody's time. And we will offer some quick picks for the first four fights, Couture up to Gallagher, and then we'll get more in depth as we go higher up the card. So, Eddie, first of all, I just want to get a little thought. Eddie, what's your thoughts on this card? I mean, it's supposed to be Bellator's huge pay-per-view. Are you expecting this to be a major success for them?
I am, actually. I think it's a solid lineup. Each fight, not each fight. I mean, obviously the online prelims are people you've never heard of, people I've never heard of, people Zane has never heard of, people Vic has never heard of. So aside from that, I mean, there's intrigue everywhere else. You got a bunch of prospects. You got 3 title fights. You have a Legends circuit fight with Wanderlei and Chael, and you have a legend versus a someone that's still in their prime, sort of. So a lot of interesting and some new acquired free agents who are debuting in Bellator. So there's a lot here.
I will say, as Mookie put it, Douglas Lima versus Lorenz Larkin is the best MMA fight in June across all promotions.
Yes. Yes.
So you got, I mean, if nothing else, you got to kind of show up for that. Like, there has been no better fight this month on paper than that one. All right, Vic, what are your thoughts on this? Do you expect it to be a wild success for Bellator?
You know, in some way, I don't know if maybe it's the fact that I'm hoping it'll be a wild success, but I kind of feel like it will be. This isn't the usual. This isn't like the Rebney era pay-per-view where they were quite content to be able to switch to free TV because they had a low enough overhead. Like, this is, it feels big. There's this giant, there's a bigger promotional push. There's far more polish on the product. They're in a massive major market that's still hungry for MMA on a big scale. And they're bringing a very big show with absolute legends and legit talent, including a few up-and-comers. In some ways, it kind of looks like an Invicta card, except there's no one making a pro debut, well, other than Heather Hardy. But we're going to get to that, too.
And Pico.
And Aaron Pico, yes, true. But, I mean, those components actually make for a very interesting mix of a little bit of everything for whether you're a dedicated MMA fan or whether you're a casual. There's something for you to pick off of this bone, and, it's a good amount of meat. So I'm guessing it's probably going to do fairly well. I hope so, at least.
My only fear is really just that for as much as Chael Sonnen and Wanderlei Silva are really easy dudes to promote casually, they have not really shown up to promote this card at all.
That was a worry of mine as well. In fact, I was talking to someone earlier today about this, that you'd think that Chael Sonnen was probably the reason why they were, this matchup, the main event, was probably the biggest promotional boon that they could have with Chael being on ESPN and doing the media rounds, but it never really seemed to have materialized, and we're less than 48 hours away from the event. So.
Like, I can't think of one Chael Sonnen soundbite in the lead up to this where, like, one quote where I'm like, oh my god, can you believe he fucking said that shit about Wanderlei?
The only quote that stood out was the somewhat distasteful one where he called a female reporter a sweet potato or something earlier today.
Which, that doesn't help.
No, not really, no.
Wanderlei did say suck my balls, though, to his credit. I thought that was witty for him, for Wanderlei Silva.
That's nice, but Wanderlei also hasn't shown up for any press events until, like, yesterday.
Yeah,
I mean, he also hasn't showed up for a fight since like 2013. So.
Yeah. I don't blame Wanderlei for that. I mean, you're going to interrupt your training camp to go to LA 2 weeks before a fight just to stand and have a meet and greet? Like, come on, man. That was dumb. That was poor planning on Bellator's part. Maybe.
It may be poor planning on Bellator's part, but it means, I mean, unfortunately, like, Fedor is not the light of, like, interview wit either. You know, he's not out there making sound bites, and so you really, like, you know, I had the chance to interview some people for this card, and I was like, I'm gonna go with Ryan Bader, I think, because he's the dude that is like gonna be most likely to like say something interesting on the rest of this card.
Yeah.
Everybody else, you know, it makes me wonder as much interest, as much time as Bellator has put into promoting or into creating this card and setting it up. Will it has it created any actual buzz? And that's the thing that I don't know. Like, the card is there on paper. I look at it, I'm like, this looks like a shitload of fun. I can't wait to watch it. But I don't know how much they've gotten the word out, because I don't know how much the fighters have gotten the word out. And
it seems
what's
like
crazy about that is, and that's like for people in the shit, you know what I mean? So casual fans, they're getting even less.
Yeah.
So
yeah, there's probably the odd billboard here or there. Like, it seems like more traditional papering. I don't know if I don't watch that much television, so I can't say that there's been too much advertising there. There's a few ads for videos and stuff, but that's for people who usually are watching MMA content. It's gearing that towards us. So again, that's sort of unfair for me to make that assessment as to whether or not they're really doing enough. It doesn't seem like it, but you know.
Yeah, it's for a card that I'm really interested in seeing. I haven't heard, I don't feel like I've seen any time in the past couple of weeks the sort of major buzz creating moments surrounding it that would really get people to like engage. And that's something I worry about going into it. Maybe it will have just totally clicked on name value alone, and all the hardcores will show up for Fedor and Chael and Wandy and, you know, Lorenz Larkin, and that'll push the whole thing. But it makes me, it will be interesting, because I feel like if it does sell well, it will be a testament to Bellator's, like, to people actually being willing to show up for Bellator's brand more than it will the fighters on it, because the fighters on it haven't pushed themselves to the forefront here, you know?
If anything, it's more a real indictment on Scott Coker's efforts to sort of shake the image that Bellator had a few years ago and really sort of remake it in his own vision, and Viacom's efforts to make it something different from what it was. You know, I don't know whether I still can't really consider them a true competitor to the UFC in the purest of forms, but you know, it's a great product, and it's a lot of fun to get behind again, you know. So, you know, it's peaks and valleys like anything else.
Yeah, I mean, until we're well past our second pay-per-view ever, they're not going to be a competitor for the UFC. So
No.
but it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how this succeeds. If this hits like, if this gets anywhere near 200,000 buys, or, you know, 250,000 buys, that would be a pretty big success. And I don't know.
Is this a $50 pay-per-view?
Yes.
Yeah.
Full price.
All right. So on that note, jumping in real quick, we'll buzz through these first few picks. Ryan Couture, Haim Gozali, and Eddie, who are you picking?
I am, man, bless his heart, man. Ryan Couture. Bless his heart. I'm not picking him. Anybody but Couture. I don't care who's fighting. I'm not picking him.
All right. Vic?
You know what? I'm going to have to go with Couture on this one. I mean, Gozali's got fearsome jiu-jitsu, and he's like, you know, he's a hell of an athlete, which Couture doesn't seem to be, or at least far more athletic than Couture is. But I don't know, man. I think he's probably going to be slick enough to dodge some stuff here, which I probably said prior to his last fight, and that didn't go either. So whatever. I'm not afraid to show my ass. It's whatever. We'll just go with Ryan Couture again on this.
I think Ryan Couture should be expedited to the senior circuit.
Just fast track him to the senior circuit. I like that.
I'm serious. I'm not against that.
I'm not against it either. I'm not upset at all.
All right. Gozali is entering as a large underdog to Couture, opening at plus 435, dropping slightly to 394, and Couture opening at minus 705. Ryan Couture at minus 705.
Fucking hell.
and rising to minus 529.
If that doesn't make you cringe, you have no business gambling on fights. None.
Oh, Ryan Couture at minus 700 is amazing.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Somewhere some sap put some money down on it too. You know it.
Oh, man. All right, that brings us to Heather Hardy, Alice Yauger. Vic, who are you picking?
All right, quick fun fact. Yauger has a boxing background. In fact, she comes from boxing.
Yeah, okay, less fun facts. Get through this.
But she's not the boxer that Hardy is, and unfortunately, I got to go with the better athlete and more complete striker. So I'm going to go with Hardy.
All right, thank you. Eddie?
I'm taking Holly Holm here. Oh, wait, what? You mean this is a different boxer, blonde hair, who...
Does she have as many key eyes?
Who knows? If she's even half as accurate or can land half of her punches, she's going to do just fine. But she's got a mean jab. She's going to jab the shit out of Yauger.
All right. So you're both picking Hardy. There are no odds on this fight, which is fine. Hardy's making her MMA debut. Yauger is 4-5. So flyweight fight. We'll have to see how that shakes out. That brings us to Neiman Gracie versus Dave Marfone. And Eddie, who are you picking?
Gracie by submission.
All right. Vic?
Marfone won't make it easy. He's a big, strong guy, tough circuit, but he's got a pretty iffish gas tank. So I got to go with Neiman Gracie. Better composure, and he's actually he's far more complete than most of the Gracies you've seen in recent years. So
Gracie opened at minus 900, now out to minus 973. Marfone opened at plus 500, now out to plus 601. So even at plus 500 odds, people are not putting money on him.
And they shouldn't be. Like, you have no reason to be putting money on that guy.
Yeah.
Unless you have a serious problem.
Unless you have a serious problem. There you go.
Unless you're going to Tanya Harding a motherfucker.
That brings us to James Gallagher, Chinzo Machida. Vic, who you taking here?
Fuck. This one's a little tough for me because Machida's getting up there in age. He fights kind of like Lyoto as far as basic movement, but he's a little more dynamic and takes a few more risks. Whereas Gallagher's more, I mean, you know, he's much more athletic than he seems. He's definitely not a slouch on the ground. I think Machida probably gives him some fits early, but I'm probably going to go with Gallagher, you know, just doing enough throughout the fight, winning rounds to actually win this bout.
All right. Eddie?
Gallagher is actually 20 years old and Machida's 40 years old.
Yeah.
This motherfucker is twice this guy's age. How crazy is that? Like, awesome. This could be like a son-father fight here, which is wild. But yeah, this is Gallagher's first fight in the USA. And he like comes out under this guise of a striker, like he wants to stand there and kickbox with you. But he's really like a submission guy. He's got 5 subs, 4 by rear naked choke. And he's not really like a power striker. He's not really like a volume striker. It's kind of weird. But Machida, he might have old man strength working for him in this one.
Might have an AARP card.
Yeah, but I can't trust him to stay vertical against Ocampo in his last fight. He just could not. He was so committed to the strikes that he just couldn't stay vertical. So if he can't remain vertical, I can't see Chinzo making it through this one okay. So I got Gallagher by decision.
Gallagher or Gallagher, I don't know, whatever. He's the favorite, opening at minus 185, now to minus 224. Machida opening at plus 145, now to plus 180.
Don't bet on this. Yeah. But don't even think about betting on this.
Don't fuck with this, please.
Okay. That brings us to Phil Davis versus Ryan Bader. We'll actually get into this one a bit. And let's see. Eddie, what's your pick on this?
This is an excellent matchup. Phil Davis's last loss was Ryan Bader. His last UFC fight was Ryan Bader. So this is kind of like the measuring stick for him. You know, how much have you improved since you've departed from the UFC? And I mean, he's been on a roll, winning 4 straight, came in submitted Emmanuel Newton, which nobody does. Knocked out Francis Carmont, which Phil Davis doesn't do. And then, you know, he had a really good showing against King Mo. He actually took over late with strikes in that fight, which was insane. Something Phil Davis does not do. And he took the title from Liam McGeary. So, I mean, this dude is firing on all cylinders. And so is Bader, though, on the same token. You know, he's coming off 2 impressive knockouts, which, you know, good on Bader. He's always been a really strong striker when he lands. So it's nice to see him getting finishes, even if it's not against exactly the upper echelons of the division.
He did make a fine jelly out of Little Nog, though. You can buy that on the shelf in stores.
God.
Yeah, that was, man, I didn't like to see that. But
No.
what he did to Latifi, though, was brilliant, even though he did get dropped early in that fight. That knee he landed was absolutely superb. And their first fight was interesting. It was only 3 rounds, but Bader was able to stuff all of Phil's takedowns. And he was able to hit him with some really hard shots that started to discourage Davis. And he swelled up his eye, and, you know, Bader won that fight. I mean, it was a split decision, but Bader definitely, I think, did enough to win that. But since that fight, I mean, has Bader really gotten any better? I can't say that he has, to be quite honest. Has Phil Davis gotten better? Yeah, he has. I mean, he's definitely landing his strikes now. You know, he's finding more confidence, which I think is the biggest takeaway, is the confidence of Phil Davis is at an all-time high. And, I mean, that means a lot in this game. That's huge. So a confident Phil Davis is going to be tough to deal with. So unless Bader can zap that confidence early with heavy strikes, I kind of feel like Phil Davis is going to land some volume on him, especially over the course of 5 rounds.
You taking volume kickboxer Phil Davis here?
You know what? I think I am. I think he's starting to realize where the end of his strikes are. And Bader has shown that he's hittable, he's stoppable, and he's prone to make flubs in the middle of a fight. So I'm going to pick Phil Davis here, and I think he's going to get a submission in the 4th round.
All right. Ooh, Phil Davis by submission. That is, I like that. That's daring. Vic, who are you picking?
That's a bold ass pick right there. I like that. All right. Well, yeah, I got a serious bone to pick with your assessment that Bader may not have improved much since he last fought Davis. I mean, come on, man. He's shown more than anything after that fight, or at least in the last maybe 2 years or so, that he's even late in the game. He's sort of learned how to make certain adaptations mid-fight, or at least as the rounds go on or between rounds. Like, he's able to make these adjustments in a manner that he probably wasn't able to do before. That's actually led to him, you know, just fighting smarter. His training, I don't know what it is that he's doing exactly, but his striking looks a lot cleaner, and he was always a pretty decent boxer. But, you know, he's
not a bad boxer by any means.
Not a bad boxer by any means. I see you, Big Cone, you handsome bitch. Anyway, the thing is that you know, there's so much to his game that's it's by small measures, but they really add up in the end. And I really gotta go with Bader on this here. Davis has shown that, you know, even though some of his combinations are sparsely thrown in, you know, his striking still looks clunky. It's effective. It works. He's got that sort of striking, like what we praise Roxanne Modafferi for, right? She's able to disrupt the opponent's rhythm and sort of sneak in these odd shots that don't look like they should work, but they end up working. When you add that to the threat of his wrestling, you know, he's certainly much more dangerous. But, you know, we saw what Bader could do with him last time. He trains with a bunch of killers, too, in the wrestling department. Definitely not a slouch when it comes to submission defense either. So I'm going to say that Phil probably hurts him and drops him at some point, definitely. But I see Ryan Bader running away with this with a decision win. That will be quite clear. So that's not going to be as close as the last time. It will not be easy.
Yeah, I think in general it's hard. It feels a little weird because he got thrown in against Anthony Johnson in the middle of his improvement, but I do think that Bader's his striking has improved over time. He's gotten
over time. But since the first fight,
yeah, I think it has. I think he's smoother, and I think he's a better combination puncher than he was in that fight.
I think he fought Rashad, Anthony Johnson, Ilir Latifi, and Lil Nog. I mean,
well,
he was getting tagged by Latifi.
Phil Davis was then charged with, beating Emmanuel Newton, Francis Carmont, King Mo, and Liam McGeary.
But how he did it was impressive. I feel like, I mean, that knockout on Latifi was impressive, but he also, he got dropped in that first round, and it's hard for me to ignore that. It's like classic Bader flubs showing up against.
Yeah, but Phil Davis, I mean, other than knocking out Francis Carmont, that is still the only knockout of Phil Davis's career.
Yeah, his other two were pre-UFC.
Yeah, they were way back in the day when being on top of somebody and hitting them a lot was going to do it for him.
Yeah, and that's why I'm taking that's why I'm taking Davis by sub.
Yeah, I see. I just think Davis. His wrestling game is most functional as a chain wrestling in the clinch, and he's not a good shot wrestler. And I think I think Bader can make that too difficult on him and force him into a kickboxing match where it'll be Bader's better volume against Davis's funk. But we'll see. It's an interesting fight. Let's see. Bader is currently running close to even odds. Phil Davis opened at -140, has jumped up to as high as -116, and now back down around -126. Bader opened at +100, has tic-tacked up and down as the odds have adjusted, and got down to -103, is now back up to +101.
Where they probably should be.
Yeah, just about dead even seems right. I mean, the first fight was a really close split decision. Even if Bader won it, it was not a easy, he just blew him away or whatever. It was he barely outworked him round after round and didn't get taken down. But
and landed the harder shots for sure.
Yeah. So we'll see if that's enough of that has changed for either man. That brings us to Douglas Lima versus Lorenz Larkin. And I believe, Vic, I need your pick on this.
Now, I can't tell you how much I absolutely love this fight. I mean, this is really just it's such a treat, man. There's so much going on here and so many possibilities as to where it could go. The simplest way that I can put this, at least the most concise manner that I can think of this going, is Lima, he's really, really good at getting those low kicks just low enough to fool his opponent and really be deceptive with his range. You probably think he's a little further away than he is, and he just nails you right at the last bit and just does absolute damage. He's really good at loading up on his shots, especially when it comes to that left hand. He's put a few guys away with it, which is just absolutely, it's a testament to his consistency. He's shown a lot more discipline with his striking, a lot more patience. He's able to spring back up if he's taken down. And let's face it, these guys aren't really going to be working takedowns too much. You might see one or two, but it's not really, it's not plan A for either one of these guys. But Larkin has just been so good lately, and his athleticism has been phenomenal. I mean, he's really improved physically to the point where now everything is matching up perfectly. He's got beautiful technique, his accuracy with his shots, and how loose he can get when he's confident, and how he's able to just strike at will and land at will. That's really a big factor. If he's able to land one or two shots and really sort of get that confidence and sort of dictate the rhythm of the fight, that's definitely something that it's going to be a massive advantage for him if that does end up happening. What I do worry is about Lima's defense when it comes to striking. I don't know really how that's going to work out for him. And not only that, the fact that those heavy shots, he's a little slower to release those power shots. And maybe Larkin's going to be able to disrupt that or see it coming and be evasive and start working angles and doing things of that sort. So I just fuck. As much as I absolutely love Lima, I got to think that Larkin's a more complete striker. He's got so many more just really good defensive habits as of late that I think that's really going to make all the difference here, and he's going to start just styling on him late in the fight. I think Lima's cardio is another thing that's not going to help him. So I got to go with Larkin on this one, probably by decision.
All right, Eddie, who are you picking?
Oh, man, what a fucking awesome fight this is.
I know.
What an amazing, incredible fight. This is one of the most important welterweight fights going on. I'm super stoked for this. Oh, wow. Where do we even begin? Where do we dive in? Like, both guys are just so just good. Like, they're really good and tough to deal with and violent. These guys are violent. Look what Lorenz Larkin did to Neil Magny. Like, who's doing that to Magny? Well, Hector Lombard almost did, but we saw what happened with that.
Yeah.
But, man, Larkin, his leg kicks are phenomenal. Like, not only phenomenal, but also crafty. Like, he was landing spinning heel kicks to the thigh of Albert Tumanov. Like, who does, and like multiple, not just like one that he got lucky and landed. Like, that was a strategy. Like, he trains this. And his elbows, like, he'll throw them in the clinch. He'll throw them anywhere on the ground. Like, he's got major power in his elbows. This is tough here. Lima is going to have to check leg kicks. And we've seen him check kicks before, so we know he's able to do that. And if he's able to shut down the kicking game of Larkin, then, I mean, that at that point, you kind of make Larkin one-dimensional. Then he's only a boxer. And if it's just boxing versus boxing, I got to give the edge to Lima. I think he's the better counter striker. And I think if you pressure Larkin, he tends to make mistakes. He tends to get a little bit overwhelmed, and he will throw strikes that aren't exactly technically sound, and that leaves him exposed. But Lima's not really a pressuring guy, right? Like, he's almost passive at times, like waiting for the perfect shot. But I think if he's able to shut down the kicking game of Larkin, kind of make him one-dimensional, then that in and of itself will make Larkin a little bit desperate, forcing a mistake of some sort that Lima can maybe not end the fight, but at least score big time to get ahead on the scorecards. And Lima's been 5 rounds before. So, you know, you got to give him that. Larkin's never been scheduled for 5 rounds. So, I mean, I can't even say who's got the cardio edge. At least I've seen Lima go late.
Lima's finished a lot of fights late too. Like, his, you know, he knocked out Korshkov in round 3 in his last fight. He beat Paul Daly by decision, knocked out Rick Hahn in round 2, and Ben Saunders in round 2, and Sarajev in round 2, and some guy named Kobe Ortiz in round 3.
Jacob the Stunner. Kobe the Stunner. That was his nickname.
Steve Carl in by 3-round decision. Like, he's definitely been still a dangerous fighter late as fights go on.
Yeah, I mean, I got to lean Lima here. And on top of all of that, if a takedown is going to be mixed in, I think it's going to be from Lima. I mean, we have seen Larkin shoot in and get a takedown, but that's not really going to be his thing here. So I got to lean Lima here. I'm going to take him by decision. Super excited for this fight, but I think he can render Larkin one-dimensional and put some hands on him. So I'm going to pick Lima by decision. I'm going Bellator champions are going to show these UFC guys what's up.
My only question with that is, who has really been able to stop Larkin's kicking game by checking it?
But who's tried to check it, though? That's the thing.
I feel like Larkin, this may be a case where Larkin's speed is really the difference maker to me. Because, I agree. If it's just down to a boxing match, we've seen Larkin lose enough pure boxing matches to know that he makes big mistakes boxing. Like, he looks really pretty in some moments, and then, he can also get he can lose a decision to Albert Tumanov, where all he lands are kicks and all Tumanov lands are punches. Or he can he can get knocked out by Costa Philippou.
Man, this kind of sounds like the recipe for that Tumanov fight, though.
Yeah, I don't see
someone looking to punch and someone looking to kick, but
I don't see him making the mistakes that he made against Philippou, though. I think he's grown from that.
Oh yeah, he's definitely grown from the Philippou point. He's a different fighter than he was pretty much after his John Howard fight. He's grown.
Yeah.
Since he dropped down to welterweight, he's really looked great.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I don't know. To me, it's a question of. It's tough because I think Lima would have to go after him. I think if Lima stays on the back foot, he's going to lose. He's going to get outspeeded. He's going to get beat to the punch when it comes to a battle of speed and technique. But if he can actually pressure Larkin and go after him, he can make Larkin make mistakes. It's a tough fight, though.
Yeah, Larkin has to dictate the pace here. Has to.
Odds on this, Lorenz Larkin is coming in as the favorite, opening at -160 and dropping down to about -180, now out to -190. Douglas Lima opening at +120, going up to +149, and slowly drifting up to +156. So
I feel like Lima's almost worth a bet there.
Yeah.
I think he has a better shot than +165. That's for damn sure.
Well, it's tough too because let me see. I'm trying to neither guy has Lima hasn't been finished since he lost to Brent Weidman in Georgia Regionals back in 2008. And Larkin has been finished, but his only knockout loss is that Costa Philippou. That's the only time he's been finished in his career.
No. King Mo took his lunch.
Oh, that's right. And the King Mo no contest.
Yeah, thanks, Kim Winslow. Good job.
So Larkin has been knocked out twice by bigger men.
Something we should also mention is the fact that Lorenz Larkin has been facing better competition.
Yeah.
He really has been. I mean, he has been facing killers. Whereas Lima, Paul Daly, I love him, but, he's not on Masvidal's level. He's not on Albert Tumanov's level.
Yeah. It's tough because Koreshkov, Hahn, Saunders, these are good guys. They're not bad fighters, but but Larkin was definitely Larkin looked like he was on a title run in the UFC most recently. Beating Jorge Masvidal is a big deal, Beating Santiago Ponzinibbio is even a pretty good win. It's tough. To me, this fight comes down to speed, which we won't see. We won't know perfectly until they actually face each other. If Larkin is just way faster, then I don't think that Lima's going to have the pressure game to shut him down.
Yeah, he'd either have to have the pressure game or he'd have to have the defensive prowess to neutralize whatever Larkin's throwing at him and then figure out a way to return fire himself, which is doable. But again, like you said, we'll see the speed factor once they get out there.
Yeah, it's really tough to call until the fight actually happens. That brings us to Aaron Pico, Zach Freeman, and Eddie. What are your thoughts on this fight?
Pico is another one of these, accredited wrestlers that Bellator has scooped up in hopes of cultivating into, the next big thing, so to speak. He's training at American Kickboxing Academy, so he's with a great squad with fellow wrestlers, Cain Velasquez, Daniel Cormier.
Over under 5 years on his knees.
What's that?
How long until his knees go at training at AKA?
Man, it's over or under how many times is he going to pull out of a fight?
Yeah. How often does he have to wrestle Cain Velasquez in the gym?
If Cain's even healthy, though.
Yeah, he's going hard sparring with Daniel Cormier right now.
Yeah. He was signed 2 years ago, so there's been a little bit of a lull. But who knows? The guy he's fighting, Zach Freeman, 8-2, lost 2 of his last 3, lost to Jake Lindsay, lost to some other guy. He's got a 5-inch height advantage, and he's got some fight experience, but he's a grinder. I mean, that's kind of his thing, and you're not going to come in there and grind on Aaron Pico. At least I don't believe so. I have no reason to believe he can do that. So I'm going to pick the debuting Aaron Pico here by Hulk Smash.
All right. Vic, what are your thoughts? Aaron Pico, Zach Freeman.
Man, Freeman hasn't faced a wrestler of this caliber. Not only that, he's not just a wrestler. Pico's been boxing since he was like 14 or 16 or something like that. So, you know, I mean, Freeman is not bad. He's just one of those jiu-jitsu guys who got into MMA, and he's just sort of tried to expand from there. But it hasn't really branched out much past his jiu-jitsu. And I really can't trust that. So I'm going to have to go with Pico on this one.
Yeah, it makes me a little hesitant that, like, you know, there's some people out there talking about, oh, Pico is the best prospect in MMA history. And it's just like, the dude hasn't even fought yet.
Yeah.
Let's extremely pump the brakes until we've seen him show up for at least one fight.
I mean, if we were talking like a Joey Davis or Tyrell Fortune or Ed Ruth, like, you know, maybe. But then again, it's also the fact that Pico had Olympic hopes. You know, the reason why he hasn't fought, he was still trying to get to the Olympic squad, and you know, it didn't work out. So, which,
you know, also, I don't know, we've had Olympian wrestlers before coming to MMA. It's not like there haven't been better wrestlers.
Yeah, but did they start this young and be prodigies that were already striking at an early age? That's the thing. Like that's kind of what they were framing it as.
It's true. It's true. I'm hesitant to call anyone the best prospect ever until I actually see them fight like 5 times.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. I'm just saying that's just like from the marketing aspect. That's, you know.
I know. But it's not marketing. I'm talking about actual writers. You know, I'm talking like actual pundits. So going out on this limb. All right. Anyway, on that point, there are no odds for this fight, which I get it. Pico's 0-0. If I were a bookie, I wouldn't put odds on that.
Too risky. And we've seen like ample examples of guys who will come out in their debut and lose by submission and then go on to go 12 without a loss. So
all right. That brings us to Michael Chandler versus Brent Primus. And Vic, what are your thoughts here?
Primus is a really good fighter. Unfortunately, he's nowhere near as complete as Michael Chandler. And Chandler hits hard, dude. He's hard hitting, and his pace is just it's a little too much for a lot of these guys. And I got a feeling that he's going to drag Brent into some deep water that he might not be, you know, he might think he's expecting. But, you know, you see this happen with guys that Chandler's fought and beaten now. They'll tell you it's a different kind of strong when it's that guy. And it's consistent. You know, he keeps that pace going for a pretty long time. And can he do it for the entirety of a 5-round fight? Well, I mean, I guess we're going to find out, right? But most importantly, it's the fact that he's just so good at everything else. He's still training his submissions with Melanson. That kind of gives him an edge. Not necessarily at, I'm not saying he's going to be a knee bar hunter or anything like that, but at least it keeps his eyes open for any threats that are out there. I mean, he's been fighting smart. He's been just doing everything so well. Maybe Primus will tag him with 1 or 2 shots. I don't think it's going to be anything that he hasn't tasted before in terms of power. So I don't really see how he puts him away. I got to go with Michael Chandler on this one.
All right, Eddie?
Yeah, I mean, this is a major step up for Brent Primus here. Like, crazy step up. I mean, but good on him for getting the opportunity. Definitely good on him. You know, there was a time where I was starting to write off Michael Chandler after he lost to Will Brooks again, got TKO'd. I mean, he lost 3 straight. And then just had this resurgence, just started mopping the floor with guys. Came out in club and sub Derek Campos. David Rickles got the business again. The Patricky Pitbull knockout was one of the craziest knockouts I've ever seen. Just one punch, clean, right to the jaw kind of things. You know, and then he fights Benson Henderson and the suplex heard around the world. I mean, Chandler is a beast. He's powerful. His wrestling is powerful. His submissions are powerful. I mean, this dude is just built for this. He's just built for this. Some knocks on him is the way he strikes uses up a lot of gas. Like he's leaping in and out all the time, and that really hurts him in the later rounds. And it makes him hittable at times also. He's been 5 rounds 3 times, came out 1 and 2 in that, so he's not exactly Mr. 5th round, but he has been scheduled for 5 rounds 8 times. But the dude's nasty, man. He's never been submitted against a guy whose game is built around his jiu-jitsu. Brent Primus, he likes to take the back. You know, he's good at it, but he hasn't been dominating as of late. Like, he's coming off of back-to-back split decision wins, which, you know, some people scored both of them the other way. You know, he ate a lot of good shots in that Furia fight, like a lot of good shots that if Chandler is the one doing the punching in that, like, you're going to have a really bad night. So Primus is hittable. We saw him get tagged up. We have no idea if he can go for 5 rounds. We have no idea if he can even remotely get something close to a takedown or even close the distance. And we haven't really seen him take over a fight with strikes. And, you know, we haven't seen that one-punch KO power from him against top-flight competition. So it's like, where is he the most dangerous? It's the submission game. He's got a subber's chance against someone who's never been submitted, and that's his, you know, that's his path to victory, and that sucks. Like, that's, you know, I like the dude. He's a good dude, man. But I gotta take Michael Chandler here by TKO in the 3rd round or higher.
Very, very precise. Chandler is the favorite, opening at -565, now to -799. And Primus, the underdog, +375 up to +514. And yeah, I gotta agree with you. I mean, if you're not a guy who can really go in there and be reasonably technical and while slugging it out with Chandler, and, like, you know, be defensively savvy, landing shots, staying in the pocket and boxing, then you don't really have a chance, because that's tends to be how Chandler has lost fights, is when dudes can stay in there and eat his hardest shots and keep coming after him and keep him in the pocket and keep him striking and wait till he gets worn down and wait till things get sloppy and messy and try to take over there. And if you can't withstand that, he just knocks you the fuck out, you know?
Yeah, it's true. And you know what? The thing is, even if Primus gets dusted, it's not even going to be the worst thing in the world from him. No. It's going to be an excellent experience. You know, he's only 7-0, so yeah. You know, it's a growing thing.
He is 32, and he did start his career 7 years ago. He just hasn't fought very much, weirdly. So, I mean, it may not. It's not the worst thing in the world, but I don't know. Brent Primus, top prospect, may not happen either. This may be the crest from which he never gets back to again. Which,
very true, but he has a chance to make world champion in 8 fights. So good on him.
Yeah.
All right, that brings us to our co-main event: Fedor Emelianenko, Matt Mitrione, and Eddie. What do you got?
Fedor Emelianenko is the greatest of all time. He's the GOAT. The absolute.
You're gonna get knocked out.
The absolute GOAT. Man, the truth of the matter is, he's 40 years old. You know, he's old, high miles. He's slower. He's hittable. He's wobbleable. You know, he looked like shit against Fábio Maldonado outside of the first 10 seconds. And I was secretly happy when this fight was initially canceled the first time around, because I don't want to see Fedor go out like that, and I feel like he's supposed to. You know, Eugene S. Robinson on the Care Don't Care, he said, "We're worried about you against Matt Mitrione." What the fuck does that say? And it's like, yeah, that hits home, man. That hits home. Like, I'm scared for Fedor's safety. I feel like he's too fragile for this fight. Like, I feel like this is a legend versus someone in their prime, which I'm not okay with. So,
Mitrione's 38, but yeah, I hear you.
But you know what I mean, though.
I know what you mean.
Mitrione really just needs to remain focused and mistake-free, and he'll win this. But trusting Matt Matt Mitrione to fight mistake-free, that's borderline foolish, honestly. So I'm going to hold on to the idea that Fedor can land the big one. And if it's going to work again, then who more likely than Matt Mitrione? So Fedor Emelianenko by first-round knockout. What's up?
All right, last Emperor rides again. Vic, how you seeing it?
That's that wishful thinking at work, bro. You better undo that mind fuck you're doing right there in your head. It's not good for your health. Let me tell you something. All right, I already wrote this in the predictions, the staff predictions that are coming up for weekend, but I'll reiterate a shorter version of it here. Okay, if Fábio Maldonado can crack Fedor, so can Mitrione. However, if Carlson Monatafa can crack Mitrione, so can Fedor. So I don't exactly think it's one of those things where, that they're not equal, obviously. The only thing that they have in common is both of these guys certainly have a great degree of vulnerability when it comes to taking shots from really, really strong guys. And guess what? They're both really strong guys. The problem is I see Mitrione's size and speed being such an advantage at this point. I think he's going to be able to overwhelm Fedor and, really get those shots in close, disengage, and then just keep rushing at him until eventually something sticks. I mean, something's got to land. And neither one of these guys is going to shoot in for a double or go for like some sort of judo trip unless it's like later in the fight, say maybe a sloppy, sweaty, heavy-breathing second round, and they're both kind of gassed. And I'm not really sure it's going to go that way. So I got to go with Matt Mitrione on this one. Sad ending for Fedor. He's going to go out on a shield.
I get the feeling this might be one of those fights that's so ugly and sad and short that you don't really have time to take it in. Where like Matt Mitrione just like knocks him out in like 45 seconds, and we're all just going, "Oh God!"
Listen, I'm not in any way ruling out some kind of crazy slugfest where Fedor just happens to almost be like one of those Czech Congo Pat Barry zombie punches. Like I can see that happening too, but
there's no way, there is no universe in which Fedor Emelianenko cannot knock out Matt Mitrione. Like, that is never not on the menu for this fight.
Yeah.
It could happen. This is not a poorly booked fight. I am interested in it. I'm just not going to trust Fedor off of that Fábio Maldonado fight.
And you shouldn't. I mean, the reality is Fedor's last legitimate win was against Brett Rogers in 2009. And he hasn't fought a real contender since then. Or, I mean, he has, but he got fucked up. So
beating Ishii and Hizzo and Monson and Singh, it's just not.
Oh, especially Singh. Good fucking Christ! Why did we do that?
Yeah.
Why? No.
So I'm picking Mitrione. I'm not doing so happily. Fedor could easily win this, but I'm just not. I'm not banking on that. I'm not living in that universe. Mitrione opened as a favorite, minus 150, adjusted down to minus 161, has risen since then steadily and is now minus 120. Emelianenko opened at plus 110, adjusted up to plus 129, has dropped steadily since then, is now at minus 104.
Why are people betting on this fight?
I don't know. How let's see. Fight. Oh. Over 1.5 rounds is plus 150.
Leave it alone, guys. Just don't fuck with it. Don't poke it.
Yeah.
Just leave it alone, man. You'll be all right.
Let this one sleep. Let it
All right. Final thoughts. Chael Sonnen versus Wanderlei Silva. Vic, you have 30 seconds to make a prediction on this fight. If it takes more than 30 seconds, I will call you out for bullshitting everyone with some actual analysis.
Motherfucker, you already saw this fight on Ultimate Fighter Brazil. Congratulations. Chael Sonnen. You're welcome.
All right. Eddie?
As far as I'm concerned, Wanderlei Silva and Brian Stann retired each other at UFC on Fuel TV 8 in March of 2013. And I'm not even being funny. And Rashad Evans at UFC 167 retired Chael Sonnen with the TKO. So this might sound goofy, like I'm making jokes, but I'm not. Chael Sonnen is 0-1 in the senior league, and Wandy is 0-0. And that's just real rap. So this is legends versus legends. I'm okay with that. And I'm not sure if I'm okay with that.
I love
Sonnen
this.
by decision because Wanderlei's never been submitted.
All right, I'm picking Wanderlei here because I think that Chael Sonnen has legitimately put himself on the Bob Sapp path of if the fight gets hard, I quit.
I can see that happening.
That's where I think he is. That Tito Ortiz fight, that's what that looked like. And I think he may subconsciously have bought himself into a place where he's just not willing to do anything hard. Whereas Wanderlei Silva, we don't even know because we haven't seen him fight in 4 years. He may be a shade of his former self. He wasn't when he fought Brian Stan. But I have the feeling that Wanderlei Silva's actually going to try really hard to win this fight. And I don't think that Chael Sonnen will.
I mean, that's such a huge like hypothetical, like maybe like there's like you said, there's no true analysis for this fight. It's it's poppycock.
It is. Chael Sonnen is the favorite at the moment. These odds are just like up and down lines.
Fuck these odds.
Chael Sonnen is the favorite opening at minus 150, Tiki going down to minus 160 something and up to minus 140 and now minus 148. And Wanderlei opening at plus 110, going a little less movement on the Wanderlei line. Now at plus 122, going up and down a bit. I'm picking Wanderlei, but it's going to be it could easily be Ken Shamrock versus Royce Gracie Bellator bad.
Yeah.
Where there's like a dick kick and then he just quits and you're like, wait, what the fuck?
Or like an eye poke and they call it.
Yeah.
But hey, this is the senior league. Like, let's get behind this.
It's true.
No more BJ Penn, Yair Rodriguez matchups. Let's
BJ Penn, Dennis Seaver from now on. Thank you.
Only.
All right. On that note, you can find me fighting a moth here at the Zane Simon on Twitter.
Keep your hands up, Zane. Keep the hands up.
That's right. And Eddie Mercado at the Eddie Mercado on Twitter, and Vic at Vic M Rodriguez over on Twitter. All three of us over at BloodyElbow.com. Give this video a like over on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, MMANation.com. DOTCOM. That's where you get all the latest, greatest Bloody Elbow shows, interviews, analysis, all that. We will not be back next week because there are no big fight cards next week. But we will have If I Did It and Heavy Hands and MMA Depressed Us and all that good stuff. So
and a sixth round for this Bellator on Saturday.
Yeah, we'll have 6 rounds. Me and Eddie will be on 6th round for Bellator. We've shifted. I've traded with Kid Nate.
You haven't informed me on the
I know.
And I will be attending, actually, so we'll be having some content that we'll be providing.
Vic will be there live, and we will be
extra weird for Vic if you see him in person at Madison Square Garden.
Just make sure your hands are clean.
I don't think you can get weird enough for Vic, though, so that really won't help.
I'll drag him into deep water. Fuck him.
Vic, let's see the hair, Vic. Vic got to show the hair. Show the hair.
Go Normcore for Vic. That's what you got to do. Like, get out there in some khakis and a button up and like
Birkenstocks, maybe.
Offer to buy him a Bud Light.
Yeah,
mumble about the weather and your kids.
Yeah, smell like lavender. I actually like lavender. So
okay, yeah. Anyway, whatever. We'll be back soon. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll see you next time.